My name is Angela Wagner, and I'm 31 years old. If you asked anyone who knows me to describe my life, they'd probably use words like stable, predictable, maybe even comfortable. I work as a senior analyst, a job that pays well enough, gives me balance, and keeps my life peaceful. I like that peace. I worked damn hard for it. But peace has a way of cracking open in one moment, one sentence, one impulsive outburst from someone you trusted. For me, that moment happened yesterday in my own living room. William, my boyfriend of 4 years, stood in front of me with his hands shaking, his face twisted with self-righteous outrage. William, who used to be charming, attentive, funny, the man I once thought I'd build a life with. He was raised in money polished by privilege and adored by a father who believed the sun rose and fell because he willed it. And William absorbed every bit of that entitlement like oxygen. All because I had declined a promotion. You're a failure, Angela. My father was right about you. I had heard sharp words from William before. Subtle jabs disguised as advice comparisons to people he thought were more ambitious comments about my lack of drive. But nothing like this. Nothing that cut so deeply and so intentionally. I remember looking at him stunned, but strangely calm. He usually is, I said. Quiet, controlled, almost detached. He blinked, thrown off. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I murmured, just agreeing with you. But inside, something fractured. William was furious because I didn't want a promotion that required relocating across the country, working 70 hours a week, sacrificing everything I loved just for a title I didn't need. I make good money. I enjoy my weekends coaching youth volleyball. I have poker nights with friends. I like my life the way it is. That wasn't enough for him. You're pathetic, he spit out. I wasted 4 years on someone who's content being average. My dad says you'll never amount to anything. And there it was, the real truth. It wasn't just about the promotion. It was about a story he'd built in his head, fed by his father, Richard Carter, a man who owned a chain of luxury car dealerships, a man who had never liked me because I never bowed to him. Richard always believed William deserved someone who worshipped the ground he walked on. Cool, I said quietly. Tell Richard I said hi. William stormed off so violently the picture frame behind him fell off the wall. The slam of the bedroom door echoed through the condo long after he disappeared behind it. For 5 whole minutes, I sat on the couch, staring at the fallen frame, feeling the weight of everything he'd said pressing into my chest. I had known I wasn't Richard's ideal choice. I had known William sometimes viewed me through the lens of someone else's expectations. But hearing it said aloud, hearing William weaponize his father's judgment, cut deeper than I expected. And yet, as I sat there in the quiet, something else surfaced. A memory, a video, a secret. November 15th, 2:34 a.m. A Ring doorbell clip. I should have deleted. One that Richard had shared with family after a break-in scare. Everyone was supposed to remove the footage afterward. William never knew that I didn't. In the video, he was wasted, stumbling out of Richard's Mercedes S-Class. He clipped the garage door, scraped the entire passenger side along the brick pillar, then put the car in park, crookedly stumbled out, and of course threw up in Richard's prized rose bushes. At least $15,000 in damage. Richard never found out. William told him someone had hit the car at the country club. Richard filed an insurance claim. William begged me, literally begged to stay quiet. Told me Richard would cut him off if he found out the truth. Said it would ruin his relationship with his father. I kept that secret for a year. But now his words sat in my chest like stones. My father was right about you. Maybe Richard deserved to be right about something else too. I opened my laptop, exhaled once, and attached the video to a new email. To Richard Carter. Subject, November 15th. Incident body. Richard, you once asked who damaged your Mercedes. William begged me not to show you this. Since you're always right about me being a failure, I figured you deserve the truth about your son. Angela. My finger hovered for only half a second before I clicked send. Then I picked up my phone and typed a short, simple text to William. Your dad's probably going to call you in about 20 minutes. You should answer. I set my phone down, stood, walked into the kitchen, and made myself a sandwich. The condo was quiet, soft, almost peaceful again. Though in my stomach something electric tingled anticipation, pity, maybe a little poetic justice. Exactly 18 minutes later, William's phone began to ring from inside the bedroom. He came storming out confused. Why is my dad calling? He snapped. Why are you smiling? No reason, I said lightly. You should answer. He did, and although I couldn't hear Richard's words, I didn't need to. William's face said everything. Confusion, shock, panic, terror. Dad, wait, what video? What are you talking about? No, that's not. Dad, just let me explain. I watched him crumble, watched his confidence melt away like something exposed for the very first time. He hung up, hands trembling. Angela, what did you do? I took a calm bite of my sandwich. Nothing, I said softly. Just shared some family memories. His chest rose in frantic bursts. You sent him that video, Angela. That's illegal. That's private. You can't just... Actually, I can, I replied. It's his camera footage. He shared it with family. I'm practically family after 4 years, right? I looked at him pointedly. Or am I too mediocre to be family? His lips parted, no words forming, no excuses, no insults, just fear. William sank down onto the couch like his legs could no longer hold him. He didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the end. This was the first hairline crack in the glass, the moment everything he relied on would begin to collapse. And I wasn't done watching. William looked like he'd been dropped into cold water. His hands shook so badly he nearly dropped his phone. He paced in tight circles, muttering, gasping, staring at me, like I was the one who had shattered his life. His phone buzzed again. He froze, staring at the notification as if it were a death sentence. Why is my mom texting me? He whispered. Angela, what did you do? I didn't bother answering. He already knew. He opened the message, his face drained entirely. Oh my God. Oh my God. He staggered to the couch. She said, Dad is calling Lawrence. Why would he call their lawyer Angela? This isn't funny. Why would you? Probably because insurance fraud tends to make lawyers involved, I said calmly. William snapped his head up. You ruined my life. I took another bite of my sandwich. You sure it was me? Because unless I'm misremembering, I wasn't the one who drunkenly plowed a Mercedes into a brick pillar. He looked at me like he couldn't believe I was real. His phone rang again. He didn't even look before answering. Mom, please, just listen. No, I didn't. Mom, don't talk to Dad yet, please. Even from several feet away, I could hear her voice, sharp, furious, relentless. William's breathing quickened. Mom, please, I didn't lie. Mom. She hung up. William stared at the dead screen, completely hollowed out. Then his eyes slid to me, filled with horror, confusion, and a fragile, desperate hope that I would somehow save him. What did you do? He repeated, barely audible. Nothing but show your family the truth, I said. You know transparency. Isn't that what ambitious people like you value? His jaw clenched. He's going to cut me off. My trust fund, my inheritance. Angela, this is serious. I gave him a sympathetic nod. Actions usually are. That set him spiraling. He tried calling his father. Straight to voicemail. He called again. Then again. Each attempt made him more frantic, more unhinged, until he was practically shaking with helpless panic. My phone buzzed. I looked down. Someone from his extended family had forwarded me a screenshot of the Carter family group chat. Richard, this is what happens when you enable an entitled liar. Aunt Martha always knew that boy was hiding something. Cousin Theo William caught in 4K. William saw my expression shift and lunged toward me. You have to fix this. You have to. Fix what I asked. Your drunk driving, your lies. The insurance claim you let your father file under false pretenses. Tell him the video is fake, he shouted. I let out a soft laugh. It's not fake, William. Timestamp, license plate, your face. The part where you threw up in the roses. Pretty hard to fake that. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. Angela, please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I pulled back from his touch. Great. Start with packing. The air left his lungs in a slow, horrified exhale. Well, what did you just say? You're moving out, I repeated. You're kicking me out over this. No, I said quietly, without a shred of hesitation. I'm kicking you out because you called me a failure. The video. That's just poetic timing. Before he could respond, his phone rang again. He stared at the caller ID with dread. Lawrence, family attorney. I watched him answer it with trembling fingers. Yes, I understand, but I'm his son. Yes, I realize that there must be something. Oh, his eyes glistened. He swallowed hard. Then he hung up. He's removing me from the will, he whispered. The trust fund is frozen, and he wants me to pay him back the deductible, and the insurance premium increases. How much? I asked softly. $5,000, he snapped, which I don't have because I spent it on. That little getaway to Miami with your buddies, I finished. Yeah, I saw the photos. His face twisted. William suddenly exploded, grabbing couch cushions and hurling them across the room. He shoved a lamp, knocked over a plant, sent a stack of mail flying like confetti. I stood. Stop! He froze mid-rage, chest heaving. You break anything else, I said evenly, and I call the police. Then everyone, not just your father, will know exactly who you are. He stared at me, sweating, terrified. He knew I meant it. This isn't over, he whispered. You're right, I said. You still have to pack. But of course he didn't pack. Instead, he did the one thing I absolutely should have predicted. He summoned his personal echo chamber. At 10 a.m. the next morning, my buzzer sounded. I opened the door and immediately felt my remaining patience with humanity evaporate. Madison, Bailey, Anastasia, 3 people who spent more time posing with overpriced cocktails than using their frontal lobes. They shoved their way inside like they owned the place. You need to fix this, Madison declared. She tossed her purse onto my coffee table like a lawyer slamming evidence in a courtroom drama. Fix what I asked, already tired. This entire situation with William and his dad, Bailey said, adjusting her too tight crop top. Anastasia added, You basically traumatized him. He's been crying all morning. William committed insurance fraud, I reminded them. They all gasped dramatically. Everyone makes mistakes, Bailey exclaimed. And some people, I said, learn from them. William came out from the bedroom, fake crying, putting on the soft, wounded persona he always used when manipulation was the goal. See, he sniffed. Even they know you're being unreasonable. Madison raised her phone. I'm recording this for evidence of your emotional abuse. I nodded. Fantastic. Then record this too. All 3 of you are trespassing. Please leave now or I'll call the police. A synchronized gasp. 4 hands flew to 4 chests. 4 sets of eyes widened. You wouldn't, Anastasia said. I picked up my phone, dialed. Hi, I need assistance removing trespassers. They sprinted out so fast I thought one of them might sprain an ankle. The door slammed behind them. Silence. William stared at me with pure hatred. You're a monster. No, William, I said. My voice was calm, controlled, steady. I'm someone who finally stopped protecting you. And the worst part for him, it was only going to get worse. I thought the tantrums and the dramatics were the worst of it. I was wrong. William's meltdown was only the first wave. The second wave came disguised as something quieter, something more insidious. He tried to be sweet. It began the morning after his brunch squad fled my condo, like startled flamingos. I woke to the smell of something burning. When I stepped into the kitchen, William was standing over a pan filled with what used to be scrambled eggs, but now resembled a crime scene. Good morning, he said softly, wearing that apologetic smile he used on his mother whenever he wanted something. I made breakfast. I stared at the disaster. You burned the eggs. He laughed nervously. Yeah, well, I'm distracted. Everything's really hard right now. His voice trembled just enough to seem genuine. Not too much. Just enough. I thought maybe we could... He lifted the pan, presenting the charred remains. Eat together, talk. I shook my head. No, William. His smile faltered. Angela, please. I'm not doing this, I said. You're moving out. That hasn't changed. He set the pan down a little too hard. I'm trying. Okay, I'm making effort. Isn't that what you always wanted? No, what I wanted was respect. You only try when you've run out of manipulation tactics. He winced like I'd slapped him, but he didn't deny it. The love bombing continued anyway. That afternoon, he offered to clean. Then he offered to fold laundry. That evening, he tried to kiss my neck while I was working on my laptop. William, Marcia warned. He stepped back, sighing heavily, as if I were the unreasonable one. The next day, things escalated. I came home from a meeting to find him wearing nothing but one of my silky, button-up blouses, his attempt at some movie cliché seduction. He leaned against the doorframe of my office, pouty-lipped. Remember Miami, he asked. Yes, the one your dad paid for. We could have that again. Just us. No stress, no fights. With what money, I asked. Your frozen trust fund. He flinched, straightened, and stormed off. Every day followed the same pattern: seduction attempt, emotional breakdown, guilt-tripping, desperate promises, hollow apologies. He scrubbed the sink, badly. He tried to bake cookies, burn them. He brought me tea, salt instead of sugar. It would have been funny if it weren't so transparent. The real shift came on day 10. I was sitting on the couch when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a smooth female voice said, Angela, this is Diana Carter, William's mother. My spine straightened. Mrs. Carter. Please call me Diana, she said gently. I wanted to thank you. I blinked, unsure if I'd misheard. Thank me for telling the truth, she said. I've begged Richard for years to stop enabling William. He wouldn't listen. Maybe now he'll finally understand. I didn't know what to say. I had expected anger, rage, condemnation, not this. She continued. And if you need legal help with the eviction, my brother is a property attorney. I'd be happy to give you his number. I stared at the wall, stunned silent. Angela, she added softly, you're not the villain here. William made his bed. You simply stopped lying in it with him. After I hung up, I sat there for a long moment letting her words settle. William's own mother had more clarity about his behavior than he did. Day 12 brought chaos again. I came home to find my condo packed wall to wall with people. Loud music, beer bottles, strangers I'd never seen. What greeted me was a scene ripped straight out of a frat house. "What is this?" I demanded. William appeared with a red cup in hand. "Just some friends helping me pack," he said sweetly. There were no boxes, no tape, no suitcases, just drinking, laughing noise, and several people using my expensive candles as makeshift shot glasses. "You're trespassing," I announced. "All of you, out." A guy in a backwards cap stumbled forward. "Relax, babe, we're vibing." "I'm not your babe," I said coldly. "And you're leaving." He snorted and took a sip from a bottle he'd grabbed out of my fridge without permission. I didn't argue. I pulled out my phone and hit record. "Everyone has 60 seconds before I call the police," I said. That was all it took. People scrambled, tripping over shoes, grabbing bags, knocking into furniture. Someone toppled a plant. Someone else spilled beer on my rug. A girl in a glittery dress ran past me, clutching my air fryer, until I yelled, and she dropped it, bolting out the door. William threw his cup on the ground. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "You trashed my home." He gestured wildly. "I'm going through something." "You've been going through something your whole life," I replied. "It's called consequences." He froze, his face twisted with hatred. After the last straggler fled, I scanned the damage. Beer stains, a cracked lampshade. Someone had thrown up in my bathroom sink. William watched me silently, waiting for me to break, or yell, or cry. I didn't. "You're paying for all of this," I said. With what he snapped. "You made sure I don't have money. Then, small claims court will force you to find some." He went silent. Day 16 brought yet another desperate tactic. William showed up at the doorway of my home office with a freshly printed letter. "It's illegal to kick me out," he said triumphantly. "I have tenant rights." "You are not a tenant," I reminded him. "You never paid rent. You never signed a lease." "This letter says—" That letter, I interrupted, holding out my hand, "is going to Diana's brother." The next morning, I sent it. By noon, he'd emailed a beautifully brutal response outlining exactly how wrong William's so-called legal argument was. William read it and turned pale. "You went to my mom," he whispered. "No, she went to me." He stared at me like he didn't know who I was anymore. But the real breaking point came on day 25. A knock sounded at the door. When I opened it, Richard Carter stood there, flanked by a tall, severe-looking man with slicked back hair. William peeked out from behind me like a scolded child. Richard's jaw tightened. "Angela, we need to talk." "No," I said, "you need to leave." The taller man stepped forward. "My name is Dominic. I'm Richard's business partner. We'd like to resolve things as gentlemen." "Sounds like a speech," I said. Dominic offered a smile. "What would it take for you to delete the video?" I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "We're prepared to offer compensation," he continued. $50,000. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You want to pay me 50 grand to destroy evidence of a crime while standing in my home," I said, "where my security camera is recording everything." Both men paled instantly. I pointed toward the ceiling corner. "Say hi to the camera." Dominic coughed. Richard swore under his breath. "Leave," I said, "and don't come back." They did. William closed the door behind them and turned to me, slowly realizing something no manipulative tactic could ever undo. He had lost control. All of it. All at once. And I wasn't going to save him. Eviction day was getting closer, and the closer it crept, the more unhinged William became. Not louder, quieter. Quieter in a dangerous, simmering way. The kind of quiet that meant he'd run out of theatrics and was now spiraling inward, fighting a losing battle against reality. On day 26, I walked into the living room and froze. William was packing. Not his things. My things. My grandmother's quilt was stuffed halfway into a garbage bag. My espresso machine sat in a moving box. My PlayStation, my throw pillows, even the decorative vases my sister bought me last Christmas. "What are you doing?" I demanded. He didn't even look up. "Packing." "For who?" "Me," he said simply. I walked over and pulled the quilt out of the bag. "Why is this in here?" He frowned, like I was being unreasonable. "Because it's basically mine. I use it all the time." I stared at him. "William, it was my grandmother's. It's not yours." He shrugged and kept going. "Well, I'm used to it. It's comfortable. And the espresso machine, I'm taking that too." I reached into the box and lifted it out. "This is mine." "I picked it out," he yelled. "It matches my aesthetic." I looked him dead in the eye. Aesthetic is not ownership. He clenched his fists, trembling with that familiar blend of entitlement and panic. "I deserve something, Angela. I gave you 4 years of my life. You lived in my condo for free," I reminded him. "You paid for nothing. Not rent, not utilities, not food, not groceries, nothing. That's not fair, he cried. Relationships aren't transactional. Funny, I said, because you only seem to understand them when they are. He stopped packing. I made him open every box. We went through everything item by item. He tried claiming my blender, my speakers, my rug, even my air fryer. You don't even cook, I said. I was going to, he snapped. By the end, after removing all of my things, William was left with 2 suitcases and 3 trash bags filled with clothes he'd never folded properly in his entire life. He stared at them with a hollow expression. This is all I have, he whispered. 4 years and this is all I have. My voice softened, not out of sympathy, but truth. Maybe you should have bought your own things instead of assuming mine belonged to you. He didn't answer. He just sat on the couch and stared at the floor. For the first time, he looked small. Not pathetic, just small, like a child finally realizing he wasn't invincible. The morning of day 29, William's phone rang. He answered immediately, almost desperate. Dad, he breathed. He put the call on speaker, maybe hoping for my sympathy. What he got instead was reality. Richard's voice was sharp, cold, exhausted. William, your mother and I discussed this. You can come home, but there are conditions. William sat up. Anything, Dad. Anything. You'll work at the dealership, Richard said. Receptionist. $15 an hour. William recoiled like he'd been punched. What, Dad? No. You will pay rent, Richard continued. $500 a month. To live in my childhood bedroom, William snapped. That's insane. And Richard said, you will attend AA meetings. William's face twisted. I'm not an alcoholic. You drove my car drunk, Richard said flatly. You lied. You let me file a fraudulent insurance claim. You could have killed someone. William's lip quivered. Dad, you're being unreasonable. Richard's tone didn't budge. You can either do this or you can be homeless. Your choice. William's eyes darted to me like he expected me to jump in and defend him. I didn't. He ended the call without a word. Immediately, he dialed Diana. Mom, Dad's being insane. You need to talk to him. Diana's voice was calm, too calm. No, William. He's being generous. I wanted to charge you $800 for rent. You're taking his side, William shouted. William, she said gently. You're almost 30. You've never held a real job. You've lived off other people your whole life. This is your wake-up call. He shook his head violently. Mom, no, Mom. The offer stands for 24 hours, Diana said. Then you're on your own. She hung up. William dropped the phone and pressed both hands to his face. This can't be happening, he whispered. This isn't my life. He stayed in that position for a long time, silent, shaking, unraveling. At 3 o'clock, a knock came at the door. Larry, the building manager, stood there with a clipboard. Just checking she's leaving today, he said. I repeated. William was behind me. Yes, he is. Larry exhaled. Good. We've had multiple complaints about party's noise and someone throwing a wine bottle off the balcony last week. I turned slowly. William refused to meet my eyes. You threw a bottle, I asked. He crossed his arms defensively. I was upset. That could have killed someone, I said. Oh, please, he scoffed. You're being dramatic. Larry cleared his throat. He's banned from the building after today. Security has his photo. William choked on his breath. You can't do that. I just did, Larry said. By 5 p.m., the moment had arrived. Richard returned with the small moving truck. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him. More worn, more human. William, he said, let's go. William didn't move. His eyes were on me, pleading desperate. Angela, I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't mean what I said, he continued. He stood slowly, stepping closer. You're not mediocre. You're stable, strong. I need that. We can fix this. No, I said gently. You never wanted a partner. You wanted someone to sponsor your lifestyle while you pretended to be ambitious. His jaw trembled. That's not true. In 4 years, you've started 5 businesses I listed. Makeup, jewelry, fitness coaching, life coaching, essential oils, all funded by your dad or by me. You've never made a profit, never paid a bill. You're not an entrepreneur, William. You're a hobbyist with other people's money. He flinched. For the first time, I saw genuine pain, not entitlement, not anger pain. That's mean, he whispered. It's true, I said softly. And until you accept the truth, you'll never stop being this person. Richard sighed heavily. She's right. You're coming home. You're working for me. Maybe in a few years. I am not working as a receptionist, William exploded. Then find your own way, Richard said. William looked between us. 2 people he'd manipulated for years. 2 people finally done with his games. I hate you both, he hissed. He grabbed his suitcases, stormed to the truck, and slammed the door. Richard picked up an envelope from the dashboard and handed it to me. The insurance deductible and premium increases, he said. $5,000. From his future paychecks. I shook my head. Keep it. I didn't do this for money. Richard nodded slowly. You're not mediocre, Angela. You might be the first real adult he's ever dated. I didn't reply. He left. The condo was quiet again. Peaceful. Finally. The moment the truck pulled away, something in the condo, something in me, exhaled. The silence wasn't empty. It was full. Full of space. Full of air. Full of something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. I stood in the doorway for a while, watching the taillights shrink and disappear down the street. There was no triumph in me, no gloating, no satisfaction in his misery, just the quiet certainty that I had finally stepped out of a storm I didn't realize I'd been walking through for years. After William left, I closed the door, leaned my back against it, and let the weight of the last month sink into my bones. The condo felt bigger and lighter, and strangely, new. Like I'd just unlocked a new version of my own life. The next morning, I deep cleaned everything. I scrubbed the stove, I wiped down every counter, I washed the throw pillows, I opened every window. I steamed the carpets. I even dusted the tops of the cabinets, the kind of cleaning you only do when you're trying to cleanse something deeper than dirt. By the time I finished, the condo smelled like lemon and eucalyptus instead of William's cologne and cheap beer from his disastrous party. I changed the locks again just for my own peace of mind. When I finally sat on the couch that evening, it felt like my couch again. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have to brace myself for a mocking comment about my salary, or a lecture about ambition, or the sound of someone pacing at 3 a.m. because he couldn't sleep without creating drama. The quiet was beautiful. 3 days later, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. It was Diana. "Thank you for doing what we should have done years ago." I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling a strange warmth spread through my chest. I hadn't expected gratitude, not from her, not from anyone. But Diana had always struck me as the kind of woman who recognized the difference between cruelty and consequence. She just hadn't been able to give her son what he needed: reality. She sent another message moments later. He quit the receptionist job after 3 days, walked out in the middle of a shift. "Richard is furious." I sighed, not angry, not surprised, just sad. Because the truth was, William wasn't stupid. He wasn't incapable. He just lived so long in a world where his worst behavior was rewarded, not corrected, that responsibility felt like punishment. I didn't reply. There wasn't anything to say. Later that afternoon, I learned, courtesy of a mutual acquaintance, that William had begun couch surfing. First with a college friend, then with Madison, who was apparently also unemployed now because she'd been fired for her role in the harassment campaign. Actions, consequences, patterns. I didn't enjoy hearing it. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. Completely and fully done. A week after William left, I received a voicemail. It was Richard. "Angela," he began, sounding unusually tired. "I wanted to apologize. For everything. For how I treated you. For how I raised William. For enabling him for so long." There was a long pause. "You were right," he said quietly. "I didn't want to see the truth. Thank you for forcing me to." He hesitated again before adding, "I hope you find someone who appreciates you. You deserve better than what he gave you." I deleted the voicemail, but his sincerity lingered. My life adjusted quickly without William. Mornings became peaceful. Evenings regained their softness. I returned to my routines: work, coaching, volleyball, poker nights. Friends commented that I seemed lighter. One night a friend asked if I regretted sending the video. "No," I said simply, because regret implies I made a mistake. And the truth was I hadn't. William's downfall wasn't because of me. It was because he'd built his life on lies, entitlement, and the assumption that someone else would always clean up after him. I had simply stepped out of the way. A few days later, a coworker showed me something that made me laugh, despite myself. William had started an Instagram account, @WilliamRises Trauma and Resilience Coaching. He had posted a professional-looking headshot probably taken years ago, accompanied by a caption that read, "Sometimes the people you trust the most will betray you, but rock bottom builds character." Over 100 likes. A handful of comments praising his strength. He'd even uploaded a video about overcoming toxic relationships. I stared at the screen and shook my head. The irony was so loud it was almost poetic. I blocked the account, not out of anger, out of closure. But something stuck with me. William didn't need a villain. He needed a story where he was the hero of his own downfall. That was how he coped. Maybe someday he'd see the truth. Maybe he wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my responsibility anymore. Weeks passed. The condo stayed clean, quiet, safe, mine. On a quiet Sunday morning, I made coffee, my espresso machine, my mugs, my counter, my sunlight. I stood there breathing in the scent of fresh grounds, watching the sunrise paint the room gold. For the first time in a long time, I felt grounded. Not mediocre, not unambitious, not lacking drive. Grounded. William used to say that ambition was everything. But ambition without self-awareness is a fire with no oxygen. It burns fast and dies faster. I didn't need a title or a pay bump or 70-hour weeks. I didn't need someone else's definition of success. I didn't need to chase something I didn't want. Peace was my ambition. Stability was my success. And choosing myself was the most ambitious thing I had ever done. People asked me if I was going to date again. I said not yet. Maybe not for a while, because after spending years carrying someone else's weight, I wanted to enjoy standing on my own. And the truth was, I liked my own company. I liked my quiet mornings, my evenings, my routines, my space. One night as I sat on the couch, I realized something. Revenge wasn't the point. Closure wasn't the point. Winning wasn't the point. The point was this: I finally had my life back. And I wasn't going to give it away again. I sipped my coffee, set the mug down, and let the silence settle around me like a warm blanket. Calm, steady, unaffected.